You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Boomer's least favorite day of the week.
I like how you introduced that. Boomer's least favorite
His least favorite day of the week. We prefer to think of it as Friday Eve.
Friday Eve. It's way better to think of it that way.
That's right. It's not Boomer's least favorite. It's Friday Eve.
Friday Eve.
How you doing, bud?
I'm good. Other than what just happened outside.
That's some pouring down. Where we are right now is some pouring. I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like some pouring down rain, like coming in at an angle.
Yeah, large raindrops.
Like call for fire. This is like artillery rain coming in. All right, man, we got a great show. Got a great show lined up for you. 2:30, just in about 20 minutes-ish. Erica Thomas from 1819 News has been working a story now for quite a while. And it just came to a head yesterday, and she's going to call and give us a straight skinny on everything that's going on with a bridge project that the Department of Transportation wanted to build that would be in direct conflict with a private bridge that was already in place, and yada, yada, yada. And I tell you what, man, the more I dug into it, the more I believed that there was some politics mixed in. So, yeah, we'll talk to Erica Thomas at 2:30 from 1819 News. And then at 3:30, my favorite time of every single week, 3:30 p.m., Boomer and McQueen. So the Boom Shakalaka and the lovely McQueen will be here in studio, and we'll just go for another round of Boomer McQueen at 3:30. And then I got a whole triple dipper full of stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you have got to know as we run today's show. So number 1, I'm calling it the politics of asphalt. What? Yes, the politics of asphalt. I remember seeing a mayoral race one time, and one of the candidates who was running against the incumbent stood up and said, "Have you ever seen so much asphalt in your entire life?" And what he was saying was, asphalt's a great way to buy votes. And so we're going to talk about it, the politics of asphalt. It's real. All right, and then there's number 2 on the Triple Dipper, everything is nothing. You know, liberals are determined right now to bring in all the intersectionalities and to divide up society into 1,000 little mini pieces. But when you do that much of dividing of everything, what you get is a base, bucket full of nothing. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. Everything is nothing, and I'll let you hear all the stories that go alongside with that one in a minute. And then number 3 on the Triple Dipper, military-minded. There's some new news out there, things that are happening, like what's going on with China. Why are we seeing artificial intelligence being used in recruiting efforts? Just weird stuff, things that I thought, you know what, that's under the radar. You got to pay attention. If you're military-minded, you're going to care. So we'll talk about it, number 3 on the Triple Dipper, military-minded. All right, let me jump over here to my comments. And I got to ask you, is it just me, or is our society getting really preachy? Like, wow. It seems at every turn that we're told how we're supposed to think and that our values are not valued, and therefore we should just get in line. It doesn't even matter if we've paid for the privilege to be preached at. Society has begun morphing to a place where free will is considered to be more of a liability to some than an asset. Well, there are certainly times when we should expect to be told how things are and that we don't have much of a say in the matter. We can expect that in some places, like, if somebody joins the military. They find out pretty quick that life is different once you put your boots on at basic training. It's like that epic scene from Full Metal Jacket. Gunnery Sergeant R. Lee Ermey playing the role of Drill Instructor Hartman. In an incredibly artful and profane use of the English language, he starts off with, "I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, you will speak only when spoken to, and the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, 'Sir.' Do you maggots understand that?" That's just the way it was. Life. They were told what to think. Marine Corps Basic at Parris Island, it was not a place to expect leniency, nor was it styled as a place that allowed for a great deal of free thinking. You were told what was what and who was who, and you said, "Yes, sir," 3 bags full, and you moved out smartly. But at the same time, you would expect that. That's the way things work. Or any of you that have ever played team sports, you may recall times when the coach called a play and you were supposed to execute your part with all precision possible and without question. I mean, you can't just choose on a football team to not run your route or choose not to execute your block. The coach calls the play, the players execute the plays, and if you screw it up, you expect to be told to run laps. But at the same time, you expect it. It's the way things work, right? And then there's also times when you expect to actually pay, but still be told. For instance, you pay for tuition at a university, but you expect to hear your professors tell you how things are and why they matter. You pay for a doctor or a lawyer to provide services, but you are also paying them to tell you what you need to hear from a medical or legal perspective. So in essence, you're kind of paying to be preached at to some degree, but you also expect it. It's the way things work. But it's not the way things are supposed to work when you buy a beer. Not at all. It's not the way things are supposed to work when you buy a gun or a swimsuit or a vehicle or a hotel room or entrance to an amusement park or a baseball game. I mean, when did it become okay for mere products and services to preach at us? Did someone change the rules and make it a thing that if we buy a can of beer, we have to be told that our views on gender fluidity need to change? I mean, why is it suddenly the norm for your favorite auto manufacturer to paint their best-selling truck in rainbow colors and virtue signal to the world of truck buyers they need to get on board with alternative lifestyles? Why should anyone have paid good money for tickets to a Major League Baseball game, then have to sit there during the seventh inning stretch and be preached to about queer and transgender fake nuns who call themselves the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence? And I tell you what, while I'm on this rant, no woman should have to decide what they want to purchase in terms of new swimwear for the summer season, but only have to first wade through ads in which fake women wear swimsuits as if that's a normal thing. Preachy virtue signaling has really gotten old. Identity politics is actually unhealthy if you get down to it. It's designed to do nothing but divide us as a culture. And when we pay to buy a simple product, an inanimate object, a thing that doesn't require adherence to a philosophy or a different worldview, then here's an idea: stop preaching. This is not the way things are supposed to be. Manufacturers and service providers, they are certainly welcome to their own opinions, but why preach at us? Why run the risk you're going to alienate a large amount of your base? This past week, Miller Lite ran an ad that was designed to preach and to say that women deserve credit for making good beer throughout history and that bikini models selling beer, that's misogynist. Okay. Joe Rogan on his Joe Rogan podcast asked a simple question. So how many women are actually out there in the beer industry making beer? And I would ask further, why do we care? Make the beer. If it's good, folks will buy it. Simple as that. Make the beer and preach at us while you tell us to pay for the right to drink it, and you'll sell a whole lot less beer. But then there are those refreshing moments when common sense kind of rears its head and speaks a little bit of truth into the chaos. Some of you out there are gun aficionados, and then you're very likely familiar with Heckler & Koch, maker of the G36 assault rifle and other world-class firearms. Well, this past week, when Miller Lite preached at all of us about women and beer, a female social media manager for H&K, well, she thought it'd be a great idea to chime in. Her tweet got immediate attention, and it was not the woke crowd that was replying back to her. She tweeted back about Miller Lite. She goes, "Wow, woke? Allow me to translate. Objectifying women was never a good marketing strategy. In the firearms industry, that was a prominent strategy up until recently. Many industries have done that. And as an actual woman typing this, I'll use more words for you to comprehend, like using bunnies to sell products is trash marketing, supporting women by not doing that is no good." Well, then she went on, though, to mitigate her preaching a bit. She said this. She goes, "Now, to address the rest non-bikini parts of the ad, seems like they could have given sources for the info they're throwing out, and for them to isolate a huge part of their target consumer base makes no sense. And their virtue signaling ad doesn't even make me want to drink their beer. But at least they used actual women for it, presumably." Okay, so she tried to back it down a little bit by throwing a little shade on Miller Lite. But nonetheless, what she actually did was she inserted H&K, a gun manufacturer. She inserted them into the middle of a culture sermon. Her opinion, and yet she was speaking as if she was speaking for the company. And then she doubled down with even more tweets after that, by the way. So regardless of whether you agree with her at all, the fact is her bosses at H&K, they had never agreed to insert themselves into the preaching arena. They're a gun manufacturer, and they apparently don't want to be culture-changing preachers. So the walk back by H&K was immediate, and it was direct, as they clarified the very next day with a post on the same social media site by saying simply, HK does not engage in identity politics. A policy was violated, changes were made. Wow! I suspect the lady from HK is now standing on the unemployment line with the lady from Bud Light who put Dylan Mulvaney on a beer can and tried to get the beer label away from what she called that fratty image. All I'm saying is this. Thank you, H&K. Thank you for realizing that we don't always want to be preached to. Sometimes we just want to buy a beer or a car or a gun or a swimsuit or a ticket to a game or whatever, and know that all we're going to get for our money is a beer or a car or a gun or a swimsuit or a game to watch. If we want to be preached at, we know where to go. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. I'm just saying, man, it has gotten to the point that it is so clear that everybody out there needing to prove their wokeness is determined to make everything a sermon. And when you buy a beer or a car or a swimsuit, really, all you want is a beer or a car or a swimsuit. Leave the preaching alone and just sell your products. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Well, be careful where you are. I mean, I think that most of the rain we're looking at is in our section of northeast Alabama, but darn, I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like, good Lord.
It's a lot of bit.
It's sheets of rain. Sheets of rain. Those aren't drops.
Sheets or sheeps? Maybe both.
Oh, yeah. Cats, dogs, and sheeps. All right. Hey, listen, we got all kinds of stuff laid on. I will tell you that the text lines are already open. So grab hold of that phone and text your thoughts in, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You want to chime on in, we'll get to them. There's a few of them already in there. Let me go see what we got here. Jeff from Green Hill, he says, not doing business with any company that preaches that ungodliness. There you go. Colin from Decatur says, free thinking in the military? The only ones I ran into were Mustangs, warrants, or the senior NCOs. No disrespect intended, sir. None taken. Get the front line arrest. All right. Tony from Piedmont says, if you think that woke stuff isn't around here, you'd be mistaken. He said there's, and he sent a picture of somebody who's at a local school. Wow. Okay. Wow. I won't say where. Bruce from Hazel Green says, me personally, I do not buy the products for indoors. For indoors, I don't know what he means. Anyway, I guess what he's saying is he ain't doing the preaching. JT from Lacey Springs says, this monologue reminds me of hearing a timeshare spiel. A timeshare spiel. He says, best things in sliced bread, life-changing, can't do without it, or leave till you sign on the dotted line. Did he just compare me to a timeshare salesman?
He did.
I got a funny story about that, by the way. John from Huntsville. Phil, awesome monologue. Thank you, John. Appreciate you very much. I'll tell you, part of what got me on that monologue, Boom, was that video you sent me last night.
Oh, yeah. So that's what kind of threw me for a loop was the whole the video I sent you was of Ford, and it was a Raptor truck.
A Raptor F-150.
And, man, the beginning of the commercial started out cool. It was this truck is going through, like, the woods, down through ruts, and, all manly stuff. And next thing you know, it gets splashed with water, and it's a rainbow truck. And it says the new Ford Tough.
Yeah.
And it's all in rainbow colors.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
I may have sent that to a few people that were thinking of buying a Ford truck in the next week, so I'm not sure if they're going to be getting it anymore.
All I know is I'm still enjoying my Jeep Gladiator, and I am just hoping I don't see a rainbow painted Gladiator on the commercial anytime soon. Just,
like you said, stop preaching to us. Just let us get our things.
just sell your trucks. Just for the love. I mean,
sell them.
Just do trucks, man. Just do your soft drinks. Just sell your freaking airline tickets. Just
don't
stop
preach
preaching
to us. Just sell them.
Yes. And it's everywhere. I mean, you and I were sitting here right as the show was about to go on the air, and up on one of the screens on the wall, there was a story that was on Fox News at the time, but it was transvestites, fake women, modeling womenmen's bathing suits. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's what every woman wants to do.
We all want to see that. So thanks, guys.
It's what every woman's looking for. I'm gonna find a bathing suit that fits a man just right, so I can look good in it on the beach.
Oh, that looks good. That'll look good on me. No,
certainly. Wow. If a man can look good in it, surely I would. Wow. It just boggles the mind.
It really does.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Listen, there's plenty of that coming up. Hey, by the way, we're gonna have a call here in just a few minutes. Erica Thomas from 1819 News. I'm switching gears here, so because I could spend all day on going wow, but I'm not. But Erica Thomas, our friend, reporter at 1819 News, did a great piece, and she's been developing the story over time on what I'm calling the politics of asphalt. So if you're not familiar, a guy named John Cooper has been the head of ALDOT, the Alabama Department of Transportation, for a number of years. I mean, he's been there, 15 years. But ALDOT is basically not only the ones who handle things related to the maintenance of roads, but also the construction of new roads and bridges. And so ALDOT can be your friend or your foe, if you know what I'm saying. When I was a state senator, I got elected in 2010. When I was a state senator, I represented 4 counties in the northeastern part of the state: Etowah, Cherokee, DeKalb, and St. Clair counties. Cherokee County, beautiful county, love that place. Cherokee County, has Weiss Lake. It's like the crappie capital of the world, they call it. It's got lots of lakefront homes and all that. Not a lot of industry there, but does have some. But I guess the folks in Cherokee County have been saying that since the 60s, they were being told that Highway 411 would someday be 4-laned. Oh, how about that? One of the only counties in the state, 67 counties, one of the only counties in the state that has no 4-lane access to an interstate. Well, what that does is that inhibits their growth. It inhibits their ability to attract new, industry or other, partners to the area. It makes it harder to go back and forth. I can't tell you how many times I'd be going up there to do a speaking engagement or a ribbon cutting or meeting with constituents, get stuck behind a logging truck. You're just going to just tool along for a while. Well, I got elected, and it turns out that Highway 411, the last 10 miles of it, they had started the 4-lane process, graded it all out, bought the land, packed it down, and then I believe the governor got mad at my predecessor, state senator, and the project just sat there, doing nothing. The politics of asphalt, man. Well, we'll talk with Erica Thomas here in a minute about what happened with the bridge down yonder in Baldwin County. Just got through a court hearing, and wow. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid and conservative and just plain right. Hey, I'm about to go to the phones in a minute, but I got to tell you, I just saw some breaking news literally seconds before I went on the air. And this is tragic. I hate to hear this, but and it's in this listening area, and it's also somebody who's been a friend to a number of organizations that I've been involved in, not the least of which was the Alabama Policy Institute. But the Reverend Harry Reeder, senior pastor at Briarwood in Birmingham, was apparently just killed in an auto accident in Shelby County. That's just tragic. I am sorry to hear that. Briarwood is a great church filled with great people, and we are so sorry for your loss. And I think it's a loss to the community in many ways. So anyway, breaking news: Reverend Harry Reeder, senior pastor at Briarwood, apparently just killed in a Shelby County crash. That's tragic. All right, let me jump over here. Number one on the Triple Dipper, the politics of asphalt. What do I mean by that? Well, what I'm saying is it is so often true that what happens in road building is not always about where the road's needed. It's even not always about where the road was started, because I've seen road projects just come to a grinding halt, like you get the bridge to nowhere kind of thing. And then there's times when you get the bridge to somewhere, but do we even need that bridge? Well, my friend Erica Thomas down at 1819 News, she's been tracking a story now that's been going on for the last several months with John Cooper, who is the director of ALDOT, the Alabama Department of Transportation, who is not always known for being, everybody's best friend. I can just tell you for a fact. Well, John Cooper, he got the riot act read to him yesterday in court, and I want to bring Erica Thomas in right now to give us the update on what this case is about and how it's developed. So without further ado, Erica Thomas, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Phil. I hate to hear the news about Harry Reeder. I just spoke with him not long ago. He's always been a wonderful source for me throughout my news career, and it's just awful to hear that.
Yeah, it really is something. I mean, he's Briarwood has always been super supportive of the Alabama Policy Institute, and we've partnered together in the past on like pro-life issues and things like that. And I didn't really know Harry Reeder personally. I just felt like I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that story will develop.
My with his family and his church. It's just awful to hear right before going on the radio. But yeah, I've been working on this bridge story for a while now. And to make it simple, because I'm sure not everyone's heard about it, there are currently 2 bridges over the Intercoastal Waterway in Baldwin County, which is what gets you to Gulf Shores or Orange Beach if you're going on a beach trip. Everybody's gone over those bridges. So ALDOT's plan was to put in a 3rd bridge. However, it was about a mile away from the toll bridge that was built a couple decades ago, 2000-ish. And so the lawsuit was filed against the company or by the company that owns that toll bridge, because they said, hey, you put this free bridge in here, we're going to go into bankruptcy and, it'll put us out of business. And so that's how all this started months ago. And instead of stopping the construction of the bridge, Cooper and ALDOT went ahead and contracted out the company that won the bid for the new bridge. So Scott Bridge Company out of Opelika has been working on building this bridge for months. Wow. And now they've been told to stop.
Well, the whole thing's a mess. I mean, you got, and I granted, I get it. If you need more capacity, then you look at it. But you authorized someone to have a toll bridge. They invested hundreds of millions of dollars in a toll bridge. So there's that aspect. I mean, nobody wants to pay a toll, but then again, you've got a business that's thriving. And then you've got Scott Bridge, which believes they've got a thing going on because they're under a state contract. And then you've got a court case. So in the middle of it all is John Cooper, who is making decisions that become very questionable at some point, and the judge felt the same way. So tell us how that went yesterday.
So after about 7 days of hearings over the past couple of months, the ruling came down on this preliminary injunction, and Judge Jimmy Poole decided to go with the preliminary injunction, which is definitely going to be appealed by ALDOT. But the ruling was 80 pages of just ripping ALDOT director John Cooper a new one. Wow. And it just went on and on, which I do have to say, a few weeks ago on the last day of the hearing, the judge asked both sides to write their own proposed orders. So you have to think that he took some of what the attorneys for the Baldwin County Bridge Company, which owns the toll bridge, some of their proposed order is in there. So some of that is their words for sure. And then the main purpose of it was to say, look, John Cooper acted in bad faith when deciding to build this bridge because he said he wanted to do it to alleviate traffic on 59, and there's clearly communications that have proven there were no studies done to prove that would alleviate traffic on 59, first of all. No public hearings, just a decision made, Governor Ivey's signature on everything without her full review, and just pretty much that he did it in bad faith because he wanted to put this company out of business. And the judge in the ruling even accused Cooper of perjury.
Wow. Oh, wow. I mean, that's next level. And I can tell you, too, I just had to draft a proposed order for a judge this morning. Of course, mine was only 2 pages long. But when they do a proposed order, they still have the right to amend it. And when they sign it, they make it their own. So even if somebody else helped with the drafting because they were told to, the judge is the one who signs it. It becomes his or her words. And
yes.
So basically, the judge is of the opinion that Cooper was acting in bad faith as a state agency against a private entity by basically just being prejudiced against them as a company and going after them by building a $265 million bridge or something like that?
I think the final price tag would have been $120 million.
Wow.
But yeah, it's clear that he believes that this was a bad faith judgment call. And there's been a lot of evidence showing that there is. One thing we haven't been able to see is communications between Cooper and AlDOT with the Ivey administration because, the Supreme Court decided we weren't going to allow that. And that was a whole problem a few months ago with this whole case. But apparently the judge didn't need those communications to go ahead and say, you have to stop construction on this bridge immediately. It's not going to happen.
Wow. So the judge has enjoined any further construction. Now, where's Scott Bridge in all this? Scott Bridge came in from Opelika. They've already invested some of their time and effort. Are they at least getting paid by the state for what they've done?
They don't know what's going to happen right now. There's a hearing at 3 o'clock today that is on. It's an emergency hearing to allow Scott Bridge to continue construction pending the appeal that AlDOT plans to file. So we'll see if the judge allows them to continue, which I seriously doubt it based on the ruling that we read yesterday.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, after that kind of an order and the judge finding evidence of bad faith and even potential perjury on the part of John Cooper, the head of AlDOT, I can't see any way possible the judge is going to grant a request to now continue construction pending an appeal. I mean, what's going to wind up happening is the whole thing is going to be put on hold, and the judge at the very best or the least is going to wind up allowing Scott Bridge to be paid for services rendered thus far because they entered into their part in good faith, never knowing that there was a whole hoodoo side of this thing going on.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot more to this as far as what's been done with taxpayer dollars. They're already going to be wasted. We've already got people who have had their property taken from them.
Oh.
And they can't get that back. Their homes were destroyed so this bridge could be built. There's going to be lawsuits with all of that as well. There's already one that's been filed. So there's a whole lot of mess around there. And the fact that the bridge, according to the judge, would not alleviate traffic on 59 enough to even build it, it's just a waste of taxpayer dollars is what we're looking at, which is definitely not what we want to see in Alabama.
No, I'm going to do a little more after you get off the air with some stories I've got here, but I can distinctly remember John Cooper, and I've got a story right here in front of me. This came out, AL.com had this one back in 2015. My good friend Bill Holtzclaw, who served in the legislature with me, you may remember this. When they first tried to raise gas taxes, he and I were two of the people that killed the first gas tax iteration, and he put up a billboard in his area. And his billboard said, Governor Bentley wants to raise your taxes. I will not let that happen. Semper Fi, Senator Bill Holtzclaw. And it raised a lot of eyebrows. But John Cooper himself announced that he was pulling all road projects out of Holtzclaw's area because of the billboard. So you can't tell me that Cooper doesn't have a history of making politics a part of his asphalt laying.
according to the judge, he has a history of that, but not a history that qualifies him for the job he's doing. So,
The judge said that too?
yeah, the whole ruling is it's on the website 1819news.com. I mean, it's 80 pages, so if you have time, I definitely suggest reading through it because it's mind-blowing, all the things that he says.
Wow. Well, so Erica, you guys are tracking this hard. What's the next step with the Ivy administration? Are you ever going to hear back from Ivy's office about what her level of knowledge or information or participation was in this whole thing?
They've always responded to me when I've asked for any information from the Ivy administration. You know, it's always the political answer, which is we'll circle back, or we can tell you only the basics, which is that we cannot tell you anything. But at least they are responsive. So as far as the emails, they are saying that these emails are protected because of, I can't remember the word that they used, but executive privilege, I think, is what they
exactly.
said. So because of executive privilege, they're obviously not going to send these emails to me. Now, the governor has retained an attorney and spending more money, taxpayer dollars, on an attorney in connection to this case. So I feel like these documents will be protected for a while, and whether or not Ivy knew much about this at all, I'm not sure. But according to the judge in testimony, Tony Harris, who's the spokesperson for ALDOT, said that he hasn't, and John Cooper has not talked to Ivy since 2017 concerning this project.
Wow. But do you have signatures that are newer than that?
I don't know because they're protected under
even those two.
privilege.
Okay. Yeah. This is a nut roll, but this is the kind of thing that happens all the time, and it's amazing how much how many tax dollars go into laying 1 mile of road or building a bridge. And for this to happen the way it's happening right now, well, good job getting this story, and I can't wait to find out what the next level of the story is going to be. But right now, I'll tell you this, Erica, the worst kept secret in Montgomery is that John Cooper is allegedly going to retire very soon for health reasons. So this case is probably going to transcend his time in the seat.
You know, I was saying yesterday I would not be surprised at all if we saw him retire within the next year. For any reason whatsoever. But one of the things that was said during testimony was that this bridge project was the one thing that he wanted to get finished before he retired.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
I live in Baldwin County now, and I have to say there's a huge traffic problem here. We have the Hangout Festival this weekend, so I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in. I do wish that there was a fix to the traffic issue. I'm not a traffic expert or engineer, so I don't know if this is the solution, but a lot of people around here want the bridge.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens next, but in the meantime, you can't just, hose people and do things the way you feel like it when you're working with taxpayer dollars. You got to work with the systems and dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
That's right.
All right, Erica Thomas from 1819 News. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, boom, take us to the break, man. That's just, golly, what a crazy story. But I'm telling you, man, and we're going to talk about it more in a minute. There's a lot of politics involved with asphalt. A lot. Like more than you would ever care to know, but it's there. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid and conservative and just plain right, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, I gotta tell you, man. So I just to rehash, because I was kind of giving just a nutshell of it. So two things that spring to mind when I think of the politics of asphalt. Three things really. One was I never forget in a mayoral race in Gadsden, Alabama. One of the candidates got up there to speak against the incumbent, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Have you ever seen so much asphalt?" And it was so obvious because the incumbent was paving roads all over town, like blacktopping everything. It was pretty, and it was designed to get votes. But then there was the time when I was in the state Senate. Highway 411 literally had not been connected. I mean, it had been talked about for literally almost my entire life. Like at that point, we're talking in 40 some odd years. People used to joke when I took office and I'd say something about Highway 411. "Oh, Senator, we've been hearing that since, my granddaddy was, running his business over there in Cherokee." Anyway, the bottom line is we were able to get that project rekindled, but it had already been kicked off. My predecessor was a Democrat and had just totally ticked off the governor. In the meantime, Highway 411, they had already cut the road, they had already laid the foundation, and then they shut it off. And you had 10 miles of dirt, 10 miles of basically packed dirt. You know how they go in there and they lay the pad and all that. 10 miles of just dirt. And it sat there with weeds growing up in it. Like I've never seen a bigger waste of taxpayer dollars. And so we got that thing rekindled. We got 10 miles of it done. That left the last 3.5 to 4 miles. And, praise God, they're actually finishing it up right now. I think they're going to do a ribbon cutting here very soon. And for the first time in the history of ever, Cherokee County is going to have 4-lane access to an interstate. But it's all political. And then there's my buddy, Bill Holtzclaw. So I hope he's listening. Bill Holtzclaw, thank you for your service. Semper Fi, my brother. He and I sat next to each other on the Senate floor for 8 years. And we both ran at the same time, and then we both decided not to run at the same time. But Holtzclaw, he and I enjoyed the fact that we got to be the ones who killed the first gas tax. They tried to bring that thing in, man, and they didn't do a very good job. It was during Bentley's administration. And being W in the alphabetical order, they were calling the roll. Senator Williams, no. And that was the killer vote. Yay. But I'll just say this. I understand that roads cost money. And I understand that sometimes you got to put them where you need them to go because of more than just road usage. There might be a county that has no access or whatever. But all that to say, Holtzclaw, we had the gas tax proposition from Bentley's administration, and they were pushing for it, and the Business Council was behind it. And then Holtzclaw puts up a billboard in Huntsville. And it says, "Governor Bentley wants to raise your taxes. I will not let that happen. Semper Fi, Senator Bill Holtzclaw." I thought that was hilarious. It did not sit well with AlDOT Director John Cooper. AlDOT Director John Cooper literally decided, and here's his quote. He said this. He said, "If Senator Holtzclaw is that concerned with taxes, I think he'd probably be uncomfortable with us spending tax money in his district, so I pulled the projects." So basically, the people of that district were being represented by someone they elected, who was elected to be a low tax or a no tax guy, and he was only doing that which he believed was right for his constituency. And the AlDOT director decided to pull the projects. The same guy who we were talking about with a minute ago with Erica Thomas. He admitted it. He said the billboard was a step too far, and so he pulled the projects. I will say this. Holtzclaw held a press conference, and those projects got turned back on. It took a while. But the politics of asphalt, man, I mean, you could see it in other places. You can see it in places like up in Alaska, and we'll talk about that in a minute as I wind up this topic. If you want to chime in, you're welcome to it. Have you ever seen a road getting built or not built because of politics? I guarantee you some of you have. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Y'all chime in. We'll talk about it a bit more when we get back. Y'all stay tuned.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And yeah, like the dude just said, solid conservative and just plain right. Well, we're finishing up number one of the Triple Dipper, the politics of asphalt. And somebody who has pounded a whole lot of asphalt in his days, that would be our buddy Jeff from Indiana who just called in. So I'll just go straight to the phones. And Jeffro, what do you think about the politics of asphalt, brother?
Well, these roads aren't racist; they're just corrupt. I'm over here on the Chip and Seal Interstate 65 in Tennessee because that's just about what it is. It's there's not enough asphalt in this thing to keep the rocks together. There's more pavement on the side of the road than there is in the road anymore, I think.
What'd you call it, the chip and fill?
Yeah, it's chip and seal basically because it's like an old chip and seal road where it's not asphalt. They just kind of put a tar down and put rock chat on top of that, to make just basically a tar road. These over here are just about the same way, I think, because it's after the tar leaves, the rocks just fly everywhere. You
know what drives me crazy too is when you're driving along and you see the big construction merge coming up. You got no choice. You got to slow down. You almost sit still, and then it's cones and like for a mile and a half of cones, and you never once see a worker, but you just can't get anywhere.
No. Yeah, exactly. But these roads and everything, like I say, there's so much money and corruption in this stuff. And like I say, I used to haul the roads and everything, work for aggregate company and help build roads and stuff. And the things they'll sit there and build a brand new road, and because they basically pay off these inspectors and engineers and everything for the state, they get away with murder. Because I've been on a bridge before and everything, a brand new bridge, and it would just basically toss you out of your seat.
Yeah.
I've watched a guy that was in front of me cross it with a small car one time, and his radiator just exploded because it was literally that rough on a brand new road. The road was less than 6 months old.
Wow.
But they will not fix it. After we've got roads in Indiana now that the road is basically is sliding into the side of the road there, and it's pushing up sometimes at least a foot in places, but they won't fix it. They put a barrel out there, and this is a state highway. So it just, they've got plenty enough money to do this and that for the roads and everything. They're usually got an overabundance of funds, but then when they mess up, they will not fix it for nothing.
Well, I'll tell you what, too, here in Alabama, there's a guy who's no longer in office, thank goodness, who used to be one of the major power brokers down in Montgomery, and his son had a road building company. Go figure. And they got some major roads up in his district. How about that? Yeah. Wow.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Funny how that works. Well, you see them all, and sometimes it's state maintained, sometimes it's municipal, sometimes it's a combination, and then sometimes it's even federal in the interstates. But it's amazing how much money is tied up in infrastructure like that. And then every once in a while, you just got to question, why is this one being repaved when the ones that over there haven't been touched in 20 years? And what you look at eventually is sometimes it just boils down to politics.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, we've had some slides in Indiana there and everything on this state road I'm talking about. And instead of buying a right-of-way, just, over maybe 30, 40 feet where they could fill it in and where the bank had slid and just, cut that part of the road off and make a kind of a detour around it, they'll spend millions of dollars putting in concrete barriers and all kinds of stuff, just to hold a small bank up when they could have just bought a little bit of property to the left or right of it and went ahead and filled that in, paved over it, and everything would have been fine. Tax dollars are so misused on road funds.
Well, totally agree, man. If anybody's seen some roads, it'd be you. So you be safe on the roads today. And I don't know if it's raining where you are, but we're having like epic rain down here at the studio.
No, I just drove out of it a while ago. I'm in Tennessee.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we appreciate you, man. Take care.
Have a good one, Phil.
You too. Yeah, it's so, I mean, like, you remember this? So when Sarah Palin, and, you know, regardless of whether you liked Sarah Palin as a candidate for VP, she had already been the governor of Alaska. And she's the one who coined the phrase, the bridge to nowhere. She actually had a bridge. And I know where I got the number a while ago. I was thinking $200-something million on the bridge down in Baldwin County when I was talking to Erica Thomas. It came out of this article. I pulled this one. It's a 2015 article out of Reuters that was talking about sort of reaching back in history to the bridge from nowhere. It was dubbed that. It connected a little small city called Ketchikan to its own airport. And it was a $223 million earmark back in 2005. $223 million. But they never got it done. So they started some of the infrastructure, and then they would just sit. And it brought national attention to the area, by the way. It was 230 miles south of the state capital of Juneau. It's in an area that's very remote. And it just, you look at it, earmarks eventually of up to $450 million were assigned to this thing. And it became like the model for governmental waste, and it was in a road. And then in 2007, Governor Sarah Palin put the brakes on it and just said, look, stop. No, stop. We're not doing this. She made that part of her campaign platform as VP candidate with John McCain, talking about the bridge to nowhere. But we see there's things happening right now. Like, for instance, I can tell you, I know of multiple communities in North Alabama that are in serious need of having their traffic alleviated. Now, Huntsville, I love you. I grew up there. A lot of my family's still there. But it looks like right now, according to an article from AL.com, there's about to be another round of development on the Parkway. Now, Huntsville's the largest city in the state. I get it. And they say it's all about priorities. Okay. But it often involves politics, because you cannot tell me that the priorities there are any bigger than what they are on the bridge over the Coosa River going from Rainbow City to Southside, which is literally a funnel. It's all it is. It's a funnel. You have no choice but to go 2-lane to a single lane to a 2-lane, because a 70-year-old bridge that it can only accommodate one car at a time is the funnel from to and from major communities. Brother, you live over that way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my word. Yeah.
If you
it is complete funnel.
The wrong time of the morning if you're coming across, you just might as well just wait.
Oh, you have to time it just perfect, because it backs up. It backs up forever.
I saw it back up at least a half a mile one time just to get across the bridge.
Oh yeah, in the mornings especially, and then in the evenings, at least we have the double going back.
Well, and what's so maddening is, you're right, the bridge going south, and that is Highway 77. The bridge going south,
yes,
is a giant 2-lane bridge that was built years ago. If they only built the southbound, they did not build the northbound.
Right.
So the northbound is stuck with a little bitty funnel.
And after like race weekend,
oh my
NASCAR
gosh,
race weekend,
major thoroughfare for Talladega.
Don't even get out.
Yeah,
don't even go.
It's like what Erica was saying earlier about it's what Beach Fest, what do they call it down there, the Hangout Fest or whatever, and she's not even getting out of her house.
No, don't even do it.
But AlDOT let the bids, and you've got $35 to $40 million of Memorial Parkway overpass projects being built up by Maston Lake Road. Wow. Meanwhile, you had a story here on WVTM Channel 13 out of Coleman. This story came out just a couple weeks ago. Coleman is finally doing a ribbon cutting on Highway 157. If you're familiar with the area, there's a bridge that was built and finished in 2013, and you couldn't access it. It was just there, but you couldn't access it. Like, why is that a good idea? And AlDOT's spokesman, Seth Burkett, he says, well, that's because work stops on a project doesn't mean it's dead. You may complete some work on it and just step back from that and do other projects. How about this? If you start a project, finish it. Why do they do this? Highway 411, going up to Cherokee County that I talked about earlier. They cut it all in. They graded it. They took the properties by eminent domain. They did all the things they were going to do, and then they never paved it. And it stayed unpaved for about 6 years. And now you got this over in Coleman. Well, praise God, Highway 57, you can actually drive on the bridge. Whoop, whoop. Wasn't that the plan in the beginning? Yeah, when they finished it in 2013, 10 years ago. And now they finally connected it. The mayor, Coleman Mayor Woody Jacobs, says, yeah, it gets to the point that people start making fun of it, calling it bridges to nowhere. That's because it was. And then they tell me they're prioritizing their funding for widening 2-lane highways at other places. Okay, then why'd you build the bridge? Sat there doing nothing for 10 years. God bless the people of Coleman. I'm surprised they didn't march with torches and pitchforks down on Al Dot's offices. But yeah, that kind of politics has got to stop, man. Because road building, it's expensive, and I know it. And I'm an opponent to the gas tax. I thought they went about it all wrong. By the way, in case you didn't know this, they said they had to have more money for roads and bridges. What they weren't telling you was they were already spending some of the existing road and bridge money they had on other things besides roads and bridges, like the court system, state troopers, both of which are wonderful and needed, but they were taking money out of the, like $65 million a year coming out of the road and bridge fund, but they raised your taxes anyway because they said they didn't have enough. Well, before you say you don't, quote unquote, have enough, stop using what you've got for the wrong things. I'm so sorry. Is that common sense? I'm pretty sure I just labeled common sense and I was talking politics. They don't always mix. I know, oil and water. But the reality is this. You can't keep doing that stuff and expect the good people of the state to be okay with it. And the people in Coleman, I don't know what it took for them to finally get their connection to the bridge from nowhere, but 10 years it sat there. People up in Cherokee County, 40 years they waited for 4-laning. It's unbelievable to me the amount of politics mixed in with asphalt. All right, folks, that's it for that Dipper. You got any comments, you are welcome to text them in. We'll check them out right after the break. We'll come back from that break, finish this section up, and then bottom of the hour, it's that time. Boomer McQueen. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making it cool to be a conservative. Ellis from Huntsville just texted in. He says, this road thing must be why my property tax is going up 41% this year in Baldwin County. Dang, dude, 41%. Well, I do know this. A lot of the tax offices did reassessments. And depending upon where you live, you may find that they think you're more valuable than you were before, and that means they get more tax money. So, yeah, I don't know. And by the way, we got a new texter. You need to tell us who you are and where you're from. Give us a first name and where you're from. A 205 area code says, hey, Phil, I taught school for 33 years, and our motto for every one of those years was, would somebody please use some common sense? But you can't often find it. Where was I? Let's see here. Tony from Piedmont. He says, I know about that bridge in Coleman. I drove that road to Florence hauling fertilizer. He also said Jacksonville's a mess. Yes, it is. And then he also, by the way, Tony from Piedmont points out, I'd forgotten about this. He says, ask yourself how long the I-59 from Gadsden north of the state line was a mess, and still is a mess. But there's a period of time there where, so there's warring factions, if you didn't know this. There are warring factions within road building. There's asphalt road builders, and there's concrete road builders. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Concrete road builders build roads that don't have to be resurfaced or repaved or redone as often because it's made of concrete. More expensive, but in the long run, you save on the maintenance costs. Asphalt road builders put it down cheaper, but they got to come back and redo it more often because asphalt doesn't last as long as concrete. Okay, that being said, there's a warring faction constantly going on, and at some point, the asphalt road builders in Alabama got with the powers that be in Montgomery and made sure that things were written a certain way in the legislation that allowed asphalt road builders to have a leg up. Well, okay, at some point, though, concrete road builders said, hey, foul, that's politics, you think? And they got an opportunity to put in a section of Interstate 59 from roughly northern parts of Gadsden near the Nakalula exit up towards Fort Payne. I want to say it was like a 10 or 20 mile stretch. My God. It took them like 6 years. For a while there, basically the interstate, you just expected it. You were going to be funneled into a one lane, share the left side or share the south side and just have to drive, with concrete barriers in the middle. And I hate doing that, by the way. All that to say, it was a mess. Leanne from Huntsville says, just once I'd like to hear a little bit more Stranglehold. Boomer, she wants to, so I guess what she's saying is less of Phil talking, more of the bump music. That's what I got.
I'll do it on the out.
That's what I got. Turn your mic on and tell me what are you going to do.
I'll do it on the outro, so then you can hear a little bit longer.
Okay. All right. Brand new texter in here, Robert from Harvest. We're glad you're in the mix. He says, is it politics that keeps construction around the Huntsville area so protracted? My parents' generation were able to build the Empire State Building in less than 12 months. It takes us 18 months and 2 years or 2 years to get to a small concrete bridge across the creek in this area. What in the world? I know, man. It's because, and that's, sometimes that's politics, and sometimes it's because the regulatory aspects of road building and bridge building, we way overbuild, if you know what I'm saying. So, yeah. Alan from Arab, he says, Phil, we got a saying at work that we don't make sense, we make missiles. We have a saying at work that we don't make sense, we make missiles. We have to put $1 in the jar every time we try to make them make sense. MJ from Athens, if you want another asphalt story and some shady deals, look into Grayson Carter and Son asphalt plant in Limestone County, she says. Interesting. Okay, I don't know about that one, but all right. Thanks, MJ. Got a brand new texter also, Benji from Hackleburg. Boomer, you plugged that one in already. Thank you very much. Benji from Hackleburg says, regarding the roads that have been started and never finished, they started the bypass road around the town of Phil Campbell and Haleyville. The bed has been laid, the bridge over Bear Creek's been built, and it's been stopped. He says, it's my understanding that somebody in Haleyville has blocked completion around the city of Haleyville. Not sure how reliable the source was that claimed that. It'd be nice to see that one completed. I get it. Why would you do that much work and then stop? Bruce from Hazel Green says, yes, Highway 53 in Huntsville money was already allocated for the project going to Ardmore. All right, cool. And then Leanne from Huntsville again, she says, I agree. Is she saying I agree with me not talking as much and playing more Stranglehold? I'm not.
I don't know.
That's the other Leanne from Huntsville though saying that. So we have two Lee. I don't know what's happening right now. We got Leanne from Huntsville and Leanne from Huntsville that are both giving me the business about playing Stranglehold.
Or maybe they just agree with what you're saying.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And then Raven from Russell just texted in. He goes, "Common sense isn't common." That is true. Thank you, my brother. All right, we're going to come back from this next break here in a minute with Boomer and McQueen, and we'll see what's going on in their minds right now. I got some questions for them, and we'll throw them out there and see what's what. In the meantime, y'all stay tuned. And by the way, Leanne from Huntsville, here's a longer bump music for you. Phil Williams, we'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time, and also, by the way, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. That'd be Alabama. And I mean, this show goes way on down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, well, it's that time. Ha ha! This is my favorite time of the week. So we sit down together, two other folks here who make this work, one of whom you hear all the time. It's Boomer. But then his lovely better three-quarters, McQueen, comes in, and we call the whole segment Boomer and McQueen. Hit it. All right. You guys know. Hey, McQueen, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Oh, let's turn you on. I'm sorry. Let's try that again.
I thought
Hey,
that
McQueen.
sounded funny. I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I like that we have sound effects. I wish we had that every time I walked into the house. I'd feel good.
Oh, so she
wants speakers.
she wants her own sound effect. I don't think you're on, bud.
I'm not. The guy with the buttons, I forgot to turn myself on. Yeah, she wants her own sound effect when she walks in the door, so I guess I need to work on that.
Yeah, like you know,
Da, 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 da.
some kind of royalty, sound the trumpets. All right, you know the deal, guys. So I have a question or three. I throw them out to you and just get your thoughts, because here's the deal, folks. I mean, you get to hear me all the time opining, and yet I've got great people that work with me who sometimes come from different perspectives and certainly different age groups, and it's good to hear their thoughts. Luckily, so far, we typically align, but the day may come. Who knows?
May come.
I don't know.
We'll see.
All right. I guess if we were going for the Iron Bowl discussion, it would probably differ. But
Yeah.
anyway, nonetheless,
We'd have a situation.
get out of my studio. All right. All right. So here's my first question. All right. If you guys have been tracking the news, the southern border is madness. All right. There's been a whole lot said about sanctuary cities that are reacting to the idea of, wait a minute, sanctuary city didn't mean we really wanted you to send them here. And so the mayor of New York City has been calling on the federal government to send him more money to make. I mean, he's got something like 40,000 that have showed up, I think, so far. That's 3 days on the southern border.
Dang.
But anyway, nonetheless, in New York City, a push has been on right now by city authorities to house illegals in school gymnasiums. Your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all,
I'm ready, but if you have yours, you can go too.
Are they planning on closing the schools and housing them in the gymnasium, or they're going to be in the gymnasium and school is going to continue?
The protests that I've seen of parents taking issue with it, they're saying we want our gymnasiums back. They're already looking at kids can't have recess because the gyms are filled up with refugees.
Oh, heck no. That's my answer to that.
That was quick. You usually have like a really long
That's what I'd say.
explanation, and it's like, oh heck no.
And done.
I'm like waiting for something else.
And now she wants a sound effect at the house. So.
I know.
You are making me sound like I am high maintenance, and I'm not. You can go first, babe.
Okay, I would say, why in the world? I'm over this whole ordeal like a lot of other people. I would say, why in the world are we just giving them places to stay? One, they're starting to kick out our veterans that should actually have a place to stay. Now they're wanting to go into the schools of our kids, and why are we giving them the things when they're coming into our country? Okay, give them a tent. Let them go. Give them a tent, or something like that. Yeah. I'm over it. I'm done with it.
So you're saying your kid, you don't want them being housed in the gym when your kid goes to school?
No, absolutely not. They should already take care of this at the border. Why are we having to do it in our own states?
Okay.
And in our schools.
I'm not talking about Texas. I'm not talking about the specific border. I'm talking about the government. The border themselves, the border states are having a rough time themselves because they're going off of what the government is telling them to do.
Right. Or not doing for them.
Correct.
All right. Now, back to you, Miss Succinct and to the point. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just think that's, there's so many people, or there's many people that are, migrants that are doing it the correct way. They're getting the work green cards and doing things, properly. And when they're not, it's not always. I mean, sometimes it's good people. It's not always good people. You don't want them in the schools. Like the amount of crime that could, I mean, this is where criminal activity is coming from. A lot of it is where there's so much increase in crime. Like we don't want that in the schools. Like that's just, to me, I mean, I know, thank God it's summer, but that's
it's
scary.
almost summer. Yeah, you're right. We don't know who's necessarily coming across the border right now because they're coming over in droves. And now they're going to house them in schools where there's children and they're already pushing everything else on
just
children.
Across the hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really scary. I mean, as a parent, I'd be like, no, this isn't happening, but my kid's not going to go to school then. Like, they're not going to be in the school while this is going on.
Because you
just
don't know who
what's
these people
there.
are.
Or what's in their pocket or whatever. Mm-hmm.
So that's, I mean, it's dangerous to be at the same place as children.
Yes. Which is why I said, oh, heck no.
And that was your stamp on it. Heck no.
What she's saying is she had it right the first time. Why'd you make her say more?
Because that's what we do. We talk more.
Okay, so great point. I mean, I saw a great deal of community activism. I mean, parents got really rowdy on this thing,
Which I'm glad.
I am too.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly the way it should be. And they didn't do anything wrong. They just got very active. They protested at City Hall. They protested at the school board, and they were saying the exact same things y'all are saying. Who are these people? You're putting them next to our children. And by the way, those taxpayer dollars that built that school, they were built to have a gymnasium for kids.
Right.
If there was a tornado emergency, I get it. Put somebody in there and house them for a bit of time, like after a Hurricane Katrina, whatever. But don't tell me this is your plan to a long-term issue.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to say that it's a short-term issue, but it's going to turn into a long-term issue.
Yeah.
And it's exactly also what you said is this is exactly what people should be doing. They should be standing up and voicing out.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see that, especially happening in New York. And like
Yes.
you said too, like there's veterans that are living in, homeless veterans living in hotels, getting kicked out of hotels. Yep. And I even saw that someone had a hotel booked for a wedding, and all the guests were getting kicked out of their rooms too.
I didn't know that.
Which I mean,
Wow.
that's petty in comparison, but but still,
But they're just starting to kick out whoever they want because they're trying to get these immigrants.
because this is the master plan. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a government contract.
right.
So, or I assume it is, or at the very least, it's an NGO that'll do a mass rental. But I look at it too and think, and what's it doing to the city of New York as a whole?
Oh gosh.
I'm first of all, city of New York, you voted for Eric Adams. Guess what you got? You got a guy who's going to put illegal immigrants in your gyms. All right, but I also look at this and go, hey, United States, I can just tell you right now, because it was part of my training in the military, they call them displaced civilians at times, refugees, whatever the case may be. In this case, it's mass migration, it's voluntary migration, but nonetheless, when you got massive amounts of people, setting up a refugee camp is something that, happens all the time. The United Nations prides itself on setting up, and I don't want the United Nations doing much in our country, but you know what? If you're going to go to, the far reaches of the earth and set up an encampment for people, then why are we having to house them in our gyms? And I go back to what you said a minute ago, Boomer.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this at all? The truth is they all came here illegally, and we're going to farm them out across the nation, and they're going to take up space. Set up a refugee camp, make them sleep in a tent because they came here voluntarily. And then, you know what? When we figure you out, you can get your court date, and you may or may not get to stay.
Yep.
Hey,
it's
how
a
about
better
we get
life
some
than
of
what they're
these
coming
old
from.
cruise ships and just pull them up in the bay, load them on there. Hey, here you go. You can stay right here for the night, and then just cruise on back down, baby.
I'm pretty sure that just weigh anchor and push it off the dock, right? All right. Listen, before we run out of time, let me do another question, but this is going to be like a segue. All right, I'm going to segue onto that one.
All right.
So let me ask you this. I mean, first of all, everybody in this room loves the Lord, right? And we all know what it means to have a heart of compassion at times. So, but in regard to the same thing we're talking about, with regard to illegal immigration, how much aid and assistance is right? And then how much is just putting an enticement out there to get more to come? Basically, when is it too much? When do you have compassion versus when do you go, I'm sorry, a little tough love here, you came at the wrong time? What's the balance?
Ooh.
Yeah, what you going to say to that, McQueen?
Well, when we hit 110
Oh, heck no.
million, yeah, heck no. I'm gonna go with that. Yep, final answer.
Is that really it? No. Okay.
No, I'm gonna phone a friend. You're right.
Well, I think in my head the answer is in the question. It's the compassion part. If someone's in need, then I believe the heart of compassion, and we should give them something.
right.
But I also look at it. I'm a dad, so giving my son one thing out of love and compassion. Even if it's like something small, like let's just take a sucker from the store.
Right.
Guess what? Next time we go to the store, what's he gonna want? Mm-hmm. He's gonna want another
A sucker
or
and
something
a Lego.
else. Yeah. And
Both.
then it's just going to continue on and continue on and continue on.
So you may have to say no once in
You
a while.
have to say no eventually. And no is a very powerful but gracious word at times because it also teaches you.
Oh, that was profound.
Wow, where did that come from?
I know. I'm
I
like,
don't
who
know.
are you
Type
over
that
there,
down before I
Boomer?
forget you said it. That was good. Yeah, so I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, before I agree too much, you chime in. What you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with that. And I feel like we kind of a little bit even last week touched on this that, it's hard, like as a Christian, like, like we're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and it's hard. And I remember, and I said, and if they have a teddy bear, like I'm a sucker and I'm a mush, and I feel so bad. Like, this is why you don't have me on the border. But I think it also can be handled in a way that like a tough love, but handled in a way where they're not, demeaning to these people, because like they're leaving really difficult lives coming here, and if they're treating them with respect, even though it's a no, and that you're in a tent here, they're still probably coming into a better life than what they were in, and have to go through. And we're going to be at time here.
I'm ready to continue on to that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were kicking me off because of a commercial.
Oh, no,
Okay.
not at all. I was going to say yes, but there's a difference also in the people that are coming over across the border. There are
Yes.
women and children that do need help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then there's other women and men that don't necessarily need any help.
And there's some that are, I mean, we've got some countries like Venezuela that are actually emptying their prisons out and pushing them north.
Yeah.
And we're just getting the
And
people
just
they don't
other
want.
countries
So just
coming
tons
in.
of
So
criminals
there's a
coming in,
big
yeah.
difference in just, hey, here's everything you need, when there are some people that are in need of something, and that's where that compassion
And,
comes
and I
in.
think there's a time and a place when you can have your compassion abused. You can like, for instance, the idea they're coming here and abusing our asylum laws. They're claiming asylum because they're coming from difficult circumstances, they claim, and maybe some of them are. But the fact is, they also walked through 2 or 3 other countries not claiming asylum to get to our border to claim asylum.
Yeah.
And so apparently it wasn't that they needed to be away; they just wanted to be away to the United States.
Right.
And because they knew that when they got here, our resources and our deep pockets and our national pride on trying to be helpful was going to be available to be abused. And so I don't think it's sustainable to keep doing what we're doing. I think to your point, I think you're right. At some point, the word no is actually compassionate. And so we may have to have like a whole monologue on that one day.
We may have to.
All right, take it to the break. Boom. That was good stuff, man. We're going to come right back. And the next part of the Boomer McQueen segment, they get to ask me a question. I don't even know what it is, so I just wait and see. So Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, Boomer McQueen, and we'll be right back. are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid and conservative and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, we are back right now for round number 2 of the weekly segment we call Boomer and McQueen. You guys hear Boomer all the time, but his lovely bride McQueen is with us right now, and we just, go back and forth asking questions. By the way, if you love the banter and the things that we say or the way they react to questions and all that kind of stuff, just know this too. Aside from Rightside Radio and Rightside Radio also being available after every day's show in podcast form, Boomer McQueen have their own podcast called The Right Life.
Yes.
Which is available every Wednesday. New segments come out, right?
Every Wednesday.
And that one's getting good traction. So
really is.
Yeah, The Right Life is available every Wednesday. New downloads. So check them out.
Yes.
That's right. We love it.
All right.
Laugh with us. This is not at us.
Or laugh at us and with us.
That happens too.
All right. So this is that part where I sit back in fear and trembling, waiting to see what questions y'all are going to ask me. So who is going first on this one?
I'll let McQueen go
Let
first.
me go since you've been
since
all
I've been
on it
just
today.
gun ho.
I know, we're
today.
impressed. All right, so my question: when the Republicans take back the White House,
Whoop, whoop.
yes, where do we even start? Like, we have just a big circus mess right now. Like, where do you even begin? Like, policy wise, revamping, changing. I just don't even know where you begin. What would you do, or what do you think will happen?
It's a goat rodeo right now. It's like watching clowns get out of a car. It's every day. All right, so you're saying what would I like in the presidential level? Mm-hmm. Take back the White House. What executive orders and policies and things?
What
you
has
want
to
see
happen?
change?
Yeah, I mean, it might be hard to name the top one, but give me like top 2 or 3. Like, what has to happen
good,
first?
because I was really trying to narrow that in my head, and I was like, I don't know how to narrow that down. First out the gate, I think we have to get hold of the border. Mm-hmm. I think the border is draining assets, is causing distraction, it's creating illegalities, it's flooding our streets with fentanyl along with other drugs, and it has ripple effects that are transcending just the border states. I put a post out this morning, I don't know if y'all saw it. There was a young lady, a teenager in Prattville, Alabama, who was raped in a restaurant bathroom by an illegal alien yesterday. And so every state is a border state right now. And so I think the very first thing that I would say has to be done, and this can be done at the presidential level. Trump proved that. There are laws in place that just simply have to be enforced. And then there are executive opportunities by an administration that can be done without congressional approval, and that's okay. Sometimes I think the executive branch acts by fiat and does things it shouldn't do on its own. It needs congressional authority. There are congressional authorities already in place that Biden is choosing not to take advantage of. And so that being said, the very first thing out the gate, I think it has to be the border. Mm-hmm. And I mean a comprehensive, shut the sucker down, start building the wall, authorize the use of military force against drug cartels, stop shipping them all over the nation when they come in here illegally, and put in place the asylum laws and the Remain in Mexico policy that we used to have. Yeah. And all those things can be done by an executive branch. So number one out the gate, the border. And then number 2, I think, has to be our energy policy, because energy drives so much of the economy. And so I'm speaking off the cuff here, but my thought is you get us back to where we were, which is energy independent. Rebuild our strategic petroleum reserves, and then go ahead and reinstigate the Keystone Pipeline. Start drilling and authorizing drilling. I don't mind if you're doing all of the above. If you want to have solar panels and windmills, okay. But don't try to push us to do all solar panels and windmills. And they need to rekindle the opportunity for more nuclear power, because it's clean and it's very efficient. So I think the very first thing is the border. The next thing has got to get our energy sector back online, and get us out of the hands of the Chinese and others that are loving the fact that we're not energy independent anymore. And then just, me personally, I think thirdly is we've got to reestablish ourselves on the world stage as somebody who can be trusted, and who can be relied on, and who, by the way, we may speak softly, but we will, by God, carry a big stick.
Powerhouse, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Biggest dog on the block doesn't have to bite first, but it has to bite last. And so, dang, I enjoyed that question.
That was good.
Well, that sounds pretty feasible.
Okay,
Let's go.
So we're about to go to a break, but I'll just do a really quick question for you.
Yeah.
Which like car manufacturer is actually going to bring out like the strong commercial instead of the
rainbow one?
rainbow commercial. Like, who's going to come in and go, "We are America. This is what we stand for. Buy our stuff."
America.
Yeah.
So like back when I still remember one of my favorite songs, "Like a Rock" by
yeah.
by Bob Seger was the motto for the Chevy Silverado, wasn't it?
It was.
I'm gonna go ahead and just predict that if they got their act together, it's gonna be Jeep, because I'm a Jeep guy.
We love
You're a Jeep
Jeeps
guy.
too.
All right, Boomer McQueen, love you both. Thank you so much for your time again today. All right, folks, we're heading into hour number 3, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all of the issues. And like the dude just said, solid conservative and just plain right. Hey, by the way, coming back from the break here, so some of y'all heard the advertising going on during the breaks. And listen, Rightside Radio is a standalone business, and we are not owned by the stations that we broadcast on. In fact, we own all the content, and we have our separate offices, separate studios. We send them the signal, but we also have to run a business like anybody else. And one of the ways we, survive as a business, we're a 501c3, which is part of it. But the other part is we sell ads. So if you want to advertise on Rightside Radio, then the way you do that is contact us directly. And the way you do that is you go to our website, rightsideradio.org, and you just click on the advertising link, and it takes you to a place where you can send us a message, and we will get on it, man. We're having dialogue with people here in the last couple of days who did the exact same thing. They went to rightsideradio.org, and they clicked on it because they know that this show sounds like what they believe in, and they want their business to be advertised among like-minded people. So that being said, if you want to advertise on Rightside, we'd love to have you on the team. Go to rightsideradio.org, send us a message, and we will jump right on it. Lots of texts in the Boomer. There's apparently a bunch of people who want me to stop talking when Stranglehold comes on. There's
a lot coming in saying, "Hey, I agree with this."
Tom from Tanner just texted in too and said the same thing. He says, "I agree. Longer play of Stranglehold at the break. Not quite getting to the awesome part." Phil, stop talking. It's time to hear Stranglehold. Okay, sorry. But we have had Ted Nugent on the show twice, and so in honor of that, perhaps we shall let Stranglehold play a little more. Yes, thank you very much for all of your opinions. Brand new texter in the line, Steve from Trinity. Glad you're in there. He takes a picture of the bridge. Wow, that's a serious bridge. The bridge near Phil Campbell. He says, "Wonder what the story behind this bridge to nowhere is." I don't know. I think I want to know more about this. What highway is that on? Go ahead and text it in for us there, Steve in Trinity. I'd love to hear more. Who else we got in here? Jeff from Hazel Green talks about several roads need to be renamed. I guess because you got Washboard Road in Huntsville, Corncob Lane, Pothole Street, Band-Aid Avenue. Are these real? I mean, I know most of Huntsville quite well, and I don't recall those streets. I spent a lot of time back in my earlier years, too, by the way, delivering pizza and then delivering flowers, believe it or not, all over Huntsville. So you memorize the streets names pretty quick at that point. JT from Lacey Springs, to McQueen's question, what to do first when Republicans regain the White House? Easy, restore what Biden stopped in his first days in office. That's a good answer. Because if you remember, Biden sat down at the desk in the Oval Office right after he was sworn in and had a stack of executive orders. And the majority of them were just to rescind Trump this and rescind Trump that and rescind Trump that. And it was nauseating. What else we got in the line? Jeff from Indiana just says, "Come on, Boomer, we need some Wango Tango." So,
Wango Tango.
That's right. Everybody Wang Chung tonight.
Oh, man.
Great scene from the show Cheers. I used to love Cheers. Cheers had some of the best dynamics among the personalities on the show. And what's his name? Frazier walked into the bar, and he stood there at the top of the stairs. He says, "I just heard the greatest philosophical moment I've ever heard on the radio. Everybody Wang Chung tonight." And everybody just looked at him. Anyway. Okay, sorry. That was funny to me, I guess. In my head, that was really funny. All right, let me jump over here to the next section of the Triple Dipper. We're only on Dipper number 2. Everything is nothing. What do I mean by that? Everything is nothing. When you are so busy labeling everything and trying to draw out the differences in everything and everybody, eventually what happens is your efforts to be so-called inclusive, they gain you nothing because you have watered yourself down to the point that now you're a bunch of little factions that are each one's vying for their own piece, when the reality is, how about you just work on being the whole? Well, it's inclusivity. No, it's not. It's intersectionality, according to you. So liberals are big on this intersectionality thing. And what that means is they look at all the little divisive pieces that they've labeled. Like, for instance, what is the gay agenda called now? The LGBTQ2IA plus, I don't know, acronym. But so it's not just the gay agenda. They've got so many factions within it. And then there's the disabled community, which, I get it. They have some special needs. Let's deal with those, but you don't have to keep labeling them constantly and setting them aside. Or how about the Hispanic or the Latinx? Or how about then there's of course the racial demographics that we've seen forever, the black and white. But what's happening with liberals right now is they are so determined to divide society. Why would that be? Well, I think it's because when they divide, it's like divide and conquer. When they divide you up, then they've got less to work with. They don't have to, and they can pitch one against the other when they need to. But their intersectionalities are when they like to pretend we cross paths. You're not only gay, you're gay and handicapped. Look, an intersection. What else you got? Well, I'm gay and I'm also transgender and I'm handicapped and I'm also black. Wow, you've got multiple intersectionalities. And it goes on, and they are constantly in the effort to divide. And my point here is, when you broaden up your agendas to include everybody's everything, you get a whole lot of nothing. Because you spend so much time trying to create division that you forget that what you're really needing to do is just work on the whole. How about this? We're all Americans. How about this? In your parties, you can all be Democrats, you can all be Republicans. How about this? If you go to a team and you work to play as a team, do you think that granted, I've been in team sports before. There's going to be times when you're going to say, "Where's the O-line? Where are my hogs? Where's the secondary? Got a defensive secondary over here. Kickoff team." So you certainly that there are divisions within the team. They all wear the same uniform. They all wear the same brand. They all wear the same Super Bowl ring when it's over with. I'm just telling you, if you constantly divide and pit one against another, then you get a whole lot of everything, means you really got a lot of nothing. And Joe Biden's the worst at it, man. So townhall.com, I'll kick off with this one. I don't know if you saw it or not, but Joe Biden, who called himself the Great Uniter, remember this? He spent time the last weekend delivering the commencement address at Howard University, an HBCU, a historically black college. Howard University hosted the President of the United States, who had an opportunity to go to the podium and speak to a large audience and provide encouragement and provide, wisdom of his years, because he's got a lot of them, and to give them the big picture of America as being the place where you can take this college degree you're getting today, young men and women, and you can go out and do anything you want, because this is America. What did he do? No. He went up there and made sure they understood that systemic racism in this nation is going to try to keep them down. He literally spent time mouthing off about white supremacy being the greatest existential threat. And he even said, and I'm not just saying that because I'm at a historically black college. Sure. Yes, you are. Because what he does is constantly work to divide. And he'll label it. And it's like he's got no shame. And so Victor Davis Hanson wrote this piece in townhall.com, came out today. And he says, Biden promised unity. Instead, he habitually smears half the country as semi-fascist and ultra-MAGA extremists. Biden is cognitively challenged and often incoherent. He's now losing support in the polls from African Americans, which were once his most loyal constituency. In response, Biden does what he's always done for some 40 years, mouth off about wild racist demagoguery. And he did. He went up there and he used the opportunity he had to encourage people to try and scare them and to divide them and to make sure they understood that it's a scary world full of, different factions. And you need to find your faction and be pitted one against the other, because that's how we get things done. No, that's how you polarize society. That's how you get nothing done. When I get back from this break, I'm going to tell you about the Alabama Democrat Party and how they were so intent upon factionalizing themselves that they got into a fight about it. And now they're getting nothing done. And they may even get shut down again. Unbelievable. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Is that Stranglehold? I'll just let it play a second. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Time now, 4:23 p.m. Let me tell you, folks, one of our advertisers is ZLA Solutions. So I know these folks personally, and I'm not kidding when I tell you I am keenly aware of what a great job they've been doing. Had one of the biggest years they've ever had, and then moving into this year, just keeping it going. So at a time when our labor participation rate is low, ZLA Solutions is helping people find people to put to work. So if you need people for your job site, you need people for your workforce, doesn't matter whether you need ones or twos or threes and you need them with special niche skills that are hard to find, or whether you need an entire shift full of people to work a factory line, doesn't matter. Blue collar, white collar, no collar, it does not matter. ZLA Solutions, among all the things they do for businesses, they can help you with staffing, recruiting, background checks, drug testing, all of it. They can square you away, and they're good at it. And they do it for a lot of big-name employer groups all over North Alabama and beyond. So check out their website, zlausa.com. That's the website for ZLA Solutions, zlausa.com. And by the way, do me a favor, tell them you heard about it on Right Side Radio. All right, so I'm in this section of the Triple Dipper called Everything is Nothing. When you're so intent upon dividing everything up and pretend, like for instance, let's just say if you take a steak, you put it on a plate, and then you look at it and you carve it up into little pieces. Do you have more steak? Just a question. The answer is no, by the way. But that's what we're looking at. The Democrat Party thinks that they gain more by dividing us up into little pieces. What they really did was just divide the country. And they're doing it on a daily basis. It's like they can't help themselves. And then sometimes it gets funny, like almost ridiculous. Like here's a story that I pulled off Fox News. So you know about the whole DEI thing, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh my gosh, got to have more of that DEI. Give me some of that DEI. You got a pound of DEI? I'll take a pound of DEI. Diversity, equity, inclusion. A couple of activists named Michelle Sahin and Melissa DePino. They recently ended their partnership because they could not agree on compensation, among other things. So here's the deal. They had a company that specialized in teaching other companies how to deal with their privilege and to promote sensitivity training and basically insert DEI into their hiring and employment processes. And they totally broke down because among themselves, it says their professional and personal relationship crumbled when Sahin accused DePino of being insensitive to her role as a black woman. So let me get this straight. The DEI company charging big bucks to corporate America to teach them how privileged they are and to insert themselves into the process of hiring and maintaining, staffing on the idea of diversity, equity, inclusion. They broke down over the fact that one claimed the other was racist. Does anybody see a problem with this? And the response by Sahin to the other one, DePino, is, this is what happens when white women insert themselves into what should be a black-led organization. It says white supremacy and emotional abuse get masked under kindness. What does that even mean? White supremacy and emotional abuse gets masked under kindness. In other words, you were too nice to me. It's because you're a racist. Okay. And this should be a black-led company. Oh, really? I thought we were diverse and all about equity and inclusion. Well, not so much, because when you focus on nothing but the various factions, when you focus on constantly pointing out the differences between people, then you don't wind up being inclusive. You wind up being in a position where everything about everybody matters all the time, and you wind up with a whole lot of nothing. And that's just the case. Now, one of the worst right now, by the way, is the Alabama Democratic Party. I have said this before. I am not a fan of the Democrat Party. Do not mistake what I'm about to say for saying Phil's moderated himself. I'm not. But what I'm saying is the Republican Party in Alabama will never go back to being a solid conservative Republican Party until the Democrats get themselves in order. What, pray tell, do you mean, Phil Williams? How could you say that? We're a red state. Yes, we are. And we're a red state with purple politics. What's happened in the last few years? teachers union has gotten control. You can't find any school choice. They raised your gas taxes. They grew government bigger than California or New York has grown in the last few years. And there's a lot of things they've done right. And there's a lot of things they've just really not done well at all. Purple politics in Montgomery. So that being said, what's going to wind up having to happen is they're going to have to be challenged. Right now, the Republican Party, in terms of its elected officials, not the party itself, has gotten fat and lazy because everything has got an R by it. And they don't have to worry about supermajorities have the vote. If we don't want to do it, we won't. If we do feel like doing it, we will. And the end result is they've gotten lazy. It's because the Democrat Party is broken down, because the Democrat Party is constantly at war with itself over, you guessed it, divisions. Divisions in their own party. Divisions about how they're going to set the bylaws. What groups are we going to have? How many caucuses can we have? Do we have the LGBTQ caucus for the Democrat Party? Do we have the Native American caucus? Do we have the Black caucus? Do we have, is there a white caucus? I don't know. All I'm saying is, in a minute when we get back from the break, I'm going to give you the latest story that came off of AL.com about how another DNC, by the way, keep in mind, the National Democrat Party pretty much had to shut down the state party a few years ago. The state party didn't even have money to pay its power bills. Woo. And they were being run by folks who were absolutely co-opting things on the basis of race. Well, they came in, tried to fix it. Guess what happened? This past weekend, it broke down over race again. Because they're constantly looking at division. Because when you look at everything all the time, you get a whole lot of nothing. I'll tell you about it in more detail when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I'm talking about this show sends its signals so far on down south of Birmingham, way up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, all the way back over to Gadsden, parts of even Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi, thrown in just for good measure. All right. Hey, listen, last 25 minutes of the day, you guys are in go-home mode. You can smell the barn. I know you can. And let me just tell you about one of our advertisers before you get there. The ELM Foundation, ELM. It stands for Expect Little Miracles. Love this. So the ELM Foundation is doing what needs to be done. They're getting out there and helping people who are on the streets, finding their way back into a place of self-worth, the ability to participate in society, to have jobs, to basically restore life. And I love it. I mean, they're not. By the way, they're not doing it like government does, where you just throw money out there and hope it sticks. No, these folks are actually walking people through it, and they're giving them accountability, like holding them to a plan. It's a program they have to go through, and they're a 501c3. And what's kind of cool is they're being very successful at what they do. But in the course of doing it as a 501, when they raise money, every dollar somebody sends in goes to the programs, because they have one benefactor who is underwriting every bit of their administrative costs. So all their admin work and salaries for their staff is taken care of. They can raise money just for programming and put it all to work. So the ELM Foundation, here's their website, ELMHSV, as in Elm Huntsville, ELMHSV.org. Check it out, and if you talk to them, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. All right. Very cool. Let me jump over the text lines for a minute. Boom, we got some people texting in. And by the way, there were several folks that were pleased that you played Stranglehold.
I saw that. They were happy that happened. They're like, yes.
I think it was Tom from Tanner who also just texted in again and went, oh, yeah. So what else we got here? Let me just see what we got. John from Decatur says New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., they know what Texas has been dealing with. And we have an overpass to nowhere, he says, on Highway 20, just past I-65 and I-565 in Decatur. I think I know which one you're talking about. Tony from Piedmont says, swap the last two letters, DEI to DIE in the acronym. Hat tip to Dan Bongino on that one, he says. Leanne from Huntsville, one of the Leanne from Huntsville says, there's a Leanne caucus.
There is.
Apparently there is.
There is.
We're going to have to like give them numbers. Leanne 1, Leanne 2, thing 1, thing 2. All right, all you Leannes out there, we love you. And then we got Jim from Huntsville says the same thing. DEI, more like DIE, which stands for Devise Inequality and Exclusion. Did you see that?
Yes.
That was perfection. Jim from Huntsville, you may win the texting today. Okay. I was talking about the Alabama Democrat Party a minute ago, and my whole section here is about everything is nothing. When you're constantly focused on the divisions you're trying to create in society, what do you get out of that? Well, you get a whole lot of nothing. It's kind of hard to get something done when you've created. I mean, like, first of all, there's an old saying, if you want to see something die, put it in committee. Because when you get down to the point that everybody wants to have a say, it's certainly going to slow things down. Now, don't misunderstand me. I didn't mean don't go to committees, and committees have no place. It's not what I'm saying. I'm using that as a rough analogy to get to the bigger point. That liberal Democrats are constantly harping on ways to find something to do with differentiating you from the other. They don't want you to be the same. Oh, you appear to be in this group. Oh, we've developed a new category and you're it. Even the gay community has gotten so out of hand with the acronym, nobody even knows what it means anymore. LGBTQ2IA something, I don't know what it is. It goes on and on and on. The Democrat Party in Alabama has got a real problem. So a little background history here. There's a guy named Joe Reed. Joe Reed has headed up the Black Caucus of the Democrat Party in Alabama for decades. And Joe Reed does not like not having power. Joe Reed stood in the way of progress for the Democrat Party in Alabama for years. And Joe Reed was the man. He controlled the flow. His son, by the way, is Stephen Reed, mayor of Montgomery. And Joe Reed and another member of the state Democratic committee, Randy Kelly, They helped jump in there this past weekend and make some changes. How did that work out? Well, it's created more division. And what's interesting is they're fighting amongst themselves over the representation of various subgroups. So when the National Party came in a few years ago, the Democrat Party was falling apart. Their bylaws weren't being abided by. And the National Party said, look, you're going to lose your charter unless you start revising the bylaws. And they did. And in the course of doing it, they set up the sub-caucuses for the LGBTQ sub-caucus, the Black sub-caucus, the Native American sub-caucus, the youth sub-caucus. What else did they have? I forgot what all they had. The Hispanic sub-caucus, if I didn't already say that, and a number of others. They had multiple sub-caucuses. It's like, okay, I get that you're going to have young Republicans or something like that, but you guys have gone so far afield that you're going to have tiny tables of people sitting in different parts of the room. Well, this past weekend, it got crazy. Allegations of serious irregularities have erupted in the meeting's conduct that calls into question the validity of the actions that were taken, said a number of people who protested. It wasn't last weekend, it was 2 weekends ago, I'm sorry. It says the supporters went in and co-opted the leadership, put something in place where they were charging people to even come into the meeting, which has never happened before, and did away with the multiple caucuses and tried to change the bylaws. And even misstated that there was a quorum at times. You know why they're doing this? Power. They're trying to reconsolidate what they had already divided, and now they're fighting over whether it should be divided or not because they're so embedded in the idea of factionalization. And it goes down to all kinds of things like, I don't know, how about reparations? Here's a great idea. Let's find something bad that happened 150 years ago, and people who live now who never experienced it, let's give them money as a way of feeling contrite and doing virtue signaling. Story on Fox News. Woke ideology, lawmakers on the Dems' $14 trillion, you heard me right, $14 trillion reparations demand to address the harms since the founding of our country. Well, Representative Cori Bush has never been known for being smart, nor has she been known for making good policy. She's a firebrand, she's an activist, and she's now a congresswoman. And she's got a resolution that would call for the federal government to potentially pay trillions of dollars in reparations to the descendants of slaves and people of African descent. Let me get this straight. Hang on a second. I just realized that. So it's not just those who are descendants of slaves. It's people who are descendants of slaves and of African descent. So I guess if they immigrated here 50 years ago looking for a better life, then they're supposed to get money too, according to Cori Bush. Here's her quote. Black people in our country cannot wait any longer for our government to begin addressing each and every one of the extraordinary bits of harm. First of all, let me just point out, Cori Bush, that we have not only addressed each and every little bit, that we've got the greatest civil rights laws in the world. There's always going to be somebody who violates them. That's why we have courts. There's always going to be racism. That's why we have civil rights laws. And then we have people like Cori Bush, who can find a racist under every rock. And she says further, it's all the harm being caused since the founding. It continues to perpetuate every day across all the communities across this country. And she wants reparations in the forms of trillions of dollars. It does say, though, she could not say where the funding would come from. Interesting. Says we're still having those conversations, the Missouri Congresswoman. But she's so focused on division. And that's exactly what I'm saying. The level of division that the liberals want gets them nothing. If anything, maybe it develops their power base, because then they can go talk to a small faction and pit them against another faction and pit that one against the other two factions. And pretty soon they're standing in the middle, calling themselves the peacekeeper, when really what they're doing is they're the divider. Remember Joe Biden? If you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. Okay, what a thing to say. How about Jill Biden? Comparing them to breakfast burritos or something like that, the Hispanics. I mean, and then just this past weekend, and how insulting is this? Oh gosh, what's her name? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz from Florida, said that if we can't get more illegal aliens in here, we won't be able to harvest our crops. She says it out loud. You know why? Because they look at people as factions. They don't look at them in the whole. They don't look at them. I mean, I granted, there's a time and a place to see the individual, certainly. But if you're going to have a team, if you're going to have a nation, at some point you got to stop dividing each other up. You got to stop with the asinine jackassery. Oh, I just said it, Boomer. The asinine jackassery. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I caught you off guard, I know. The asinine jackassery of trying to constantly divide people into subgroups because, like I said earlier, when you divide people up constantly, when everything is what you're after, then nothing is what you get. All right, we're going to go to break right now. We're going to come right back. I got to tell you some good news before we're done. Like you may want to hear what one Montgomery beer distributor said regarding his own company he distributes for. That would be Bud. What do you say about Dylan Mulvaney? Yeah, we got an Alabama company having some words with the boss, if you know what I'm saying. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, making it cool to be a conservative. Final moments of the show here. Got several things going on the text lines, man. What else?
There's a lot going on, but I will say we don't have a new texter, but we have a new texter name, and that is Rough Leanne from
So one of our Leannes.
Yes.
She didn't want to be Leanne 1, Leanne 2.
Yeah, she wanted to be Rough Lee, but I'm just going to keep it at Rough Leanne.
As in ruffian, like RUFF, right?
Yeah, RUFF.
All right.
All
right.
They
are now trying to distinguish themselves amongst themselves. So yeah, all right. We love all our Leannes. Thank you very much, Rough Leanne. Chris from Gadsden, by the way, just texted in, and he pointed out, a minute ago, the reparations thing. Cori Bush calling for reparations for descendants of slaves and of African descent. He points out Elon Musk is of African descent.
Wow.
I feel certain Cori Bush didn't mean that because he's a cis white male. Okay. You can't do reparations for a cis white male.
You can't do it.
But here's the confusion. You and I have talked about this before, Boomer. What happens if you decide to identify as black?
Well, they're letting the identifying go, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what's gonna like?
What if I identify of African descent? Can I get money out of this plan?
Maybe we should try.
I may have to support this.
I mean, they're supporting everything else if they identify as whatever. So might as well just see what happens.
We need to get an update on that guy who was a city councilman up in Indiana or someplace who said he came out and said he now identifies as a transgender woman of color, even though he's a guy, he's a white dude, a transgender woman of color. But then he added, but since I still like women, that makes me a lesbian also. And he got so much heat. But all he did was just take their script and just put it to use.
Exactly.
And he wore them out too. He told them, "You cannot come out here and set the rules and then tell me I can't play on the field."
Exactly.
All right. Hey, listen, a couple of things I want to make sure you guys knew. First of all, I told a story yesterday that really was just gross. It just made me mad. And it was about the LA Dodgers, who are going to have their gay pride night coming up, and they were going to honor as a local hero an organization called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It's a group of transgender and queer activists who dress up as mock nuns, and they perform all kinds of lewd acts while they're pretending they're doing Catholic ceremonies. They actually did a mock event on Easter Sunday, mocking Jesus and Mary, and it's just, I mean, this group is sick. I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like a lot sick. And they were being honored by the Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers, they heard from the crowd. The Dodgers heard from the people. They heard from the Dodgers fans, and I love this. They pulled out. They said, nope, we're actually not going to do that. They're done. Sorry. Says this year, as a part of a full night of programming, we invited a number of groups to join us. We are now aware that our inclusion of one group in particular, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, in this year's Pride Night has been the source of some controversy. You think? Talk about trying to smooth this over. Yeah. We recognize there might be a little bit of controversy. A little? It says, given the strong feelings of people who have been offended by their inclusion in our evening, in an effort not to distract from the great benefits we've seen over the years of Pride Night, we decided to remove them from this year's group of honorees. Here's an idea. Why are you doing Pride Night? Just celebrate Dodger fans. How about that? Hey, Dodger fans, we love you. And,
Dodger fans, we love you. Come get a Dodger dog.
That's right. But no, you gotta find a faction. And you gotta show how woke you are. What can we do? Let's honor a subset of our. I mean, it's anyway. All right. Now, on a lighter note, you may recall, if you were listening to the show at the very beginning, my monologue today dealt with what I called paying for the preaching. Like, why is it nowadays when you go to buy a beer, go to buy a truck, go to buy a swimsuit, go to get a ticket to an amusement park, what you're also doing is buying the preaching. You got to get preached at. All you wanted was the beer, the truck, the swimsuit, or the ticket to the amusement park. You didn't want to get preached at. You didn't want to have your values questioned because you chose to drink that beer. You just wanted the beer. And isn't that the case? Well, I will say this. The thing that kicked all this into high gear of late was when Bud Light decided to put transgender activist Dylan Mulvaney on their can with his ridiculous cartoonish smile, pretending he's a 13-year-old girl. And their sales are tanked. Bud Light sales right now, story on 1819 News, dated today. Bud Light sales are down 23.6% in May. 23.6%. And they're in the 5th week of their backlash from the Mulvaney fallout.
Wow.
However, one major distributor in Alabama, he ain't good with it. I mean, it's killing his business.
Yeah.
He's a Budweiser distributor. The name of the company is Bama Budweiser, and he actually came out recently and said, "Yeah, we too at Bama Budweiser are upset, and we've made our feelings known to the top leadership at Anheuser-Busch. The voice of the consumer has been heard, and Anheuser-Busch has taken action. And we at Bama Budweiser, an independent wholesaler, we employ around 100 people who live here, work here, and our children go to school here. And we do not, and I've said it before, did not support this issue involving Dylan Mulvaney." And then he tries to kind of downplay it. It was only one can. No, dude, it was not just one can. It was an activist agenda. But I certainly appreciate the fact that you've got a distributor.
He's talking back.
He's talking back. He's got 100 employees and it's probably crushing his bottom line right now.
I'm sure.
But they had to be woke. They had to tell everybody how woke they were. All right. Thank you, Bama Budweiser, and good luck to you. And I hope the parent company wakes up and realizes that pretty soon they need to do an ad that pretty much says, "Sorry, our mistake."
They need to.
They need to do like HK did. HK, the Heckler and Koch, the gun manufacturer. They came out and one of their employees officially put out a statement that seemed to be like in support of some woke advertising. And they came back and said, "Our policies were not followed. Changes have been made. We do not get involved in partisan politics or identity politics." All right, man. Wow, what a good day.
It was a very good day.
I know we got some great stuff laid on for tomorrow. I've got at least one state senator and probably one other guest coming on to talk about things that are happening around and about the state of Alabama and beyond. And folks, you guys have an amazing night. We love what we do. We love this audience. Boomer and I back here tomorrow at 2 to see you then. Have a great night.